Yes. Jimmy has confirmed that Jeff Sargent is an idiot. Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy, by the way, I feel like the Sorcerer's Apprentice, because Jimmy will set us up and we'll still F it up.
He's the wizard. He's the man behind the curtain. And he's like, he doesn't even have to be here.
He does it. Jimmy is so good and so lazy. He does it from his house.
Special computer.
By the way,
in the palm of his hand.
He just sent me YouTube ? I just tweeted back that Jeff is effing this up as usual.
Well, almost 1 minute go.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, we got to hire you because there's a quota.
Damn.
On the bright side, now, as you know, this week has been Shark Week, so I don't know how the hell we're doing today's show with the guy from Home Improvement and Cenobites. There's nobody connected to sharks. I love Richard Karn, but he's never done a shark movie.
Yeah, well, let's see if he's got any shark stories.
Sure.
Shark, mud shark, river shark, damn shark.
You're off the air, shark, if you don't watch yourself.
What?
No. So what else? Let's see. So great week, fun show. Hey, there's another podcast I'd like everyone to try. Two of my favorite Seattleites, Shauna Iverson and David Wall, do Show Me the Monkey, which is a blast.
Wow, that sounds pretty funny.
It is. It's great. They run Seattle's coolest toy shop. It's Archie McPhee's.
Wow.
My family loves Archie, including myself. It's just, if you want the coolest, weirdest rubber rats, Godzilla, anything else, it's just a hip place, you know?
It kind of reminds, the way you're describing it, there was one in San Francisco called Scooby's.
It's it's like a cooler version of Scooby's, a cooler version
You've
of.
been there.
Oh yeah,
You've been to
I've been to Scooby's. I've been to the soap factory on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
They used to buy all their stuff from Archie's and then jerk up the price out here.
Oh wow! Did you find any cool Hulk stuff out there?
You know what? I do have a Hulk from Shauna's store actually, and the last time I saw Shauna, Dave, and Mark, Paltrow, who runs the show with them, they gave me Bigfoot socks, which I'm saving for the premiere of my Bigfoot movie.
Oh, that'll be bitchin'.
I'm going to wear it on the red carpet, man. Bigfoot socks, for God's sakes.
That's great, man.
But I love Shauna, Dave, Mark, and the gang over at Archie's, and I never get to Seattle often enough. So,
Aha!
Oh, God. Oh, my God. You're a total amateur today. No wonder I've had the voice of God and Jeff's been muttering in the darkness.
Come on, push the buttons, Jeff.
If only there was some clown in the recording studio who could tell you what to do.
Oh, God. Here we go. How are we sounding now, Captain Jimmy?
Take off your hat, Jeff. You look like a crazed survivalist. When the end comes, I'll be safe in my station.
I sounded far away because my voice was bleeding onto your mic because I forgot to push the on button.
I'm throwing... My mic wasn't on?
No, mine wasn't on.
Well, that's no loss.
Hey, there's Jeff Sargent in the background.
As anyone on the show knows, that's no great loss. But
I curse you, son of a bitch.
So today will be a good show, but there won't be sharks. So Mitzi Stark out of Florida and everyone else who's been complaining about Shark Week.
Remember, we're a 3-day week. So
yeah, we're a 3-day week now because Roy and Jimmy are doing the heavy lifting.
2 days is kind of like a week to us.
Not good enough, sir. Shark Day. Next week is the 40th anniversary of Jaws 2, and I wanted this to be the best Shark Week ever.
We could have got Robert Craighead because he did that movie called Damn Sharks. That was on Sci-Fi, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I know about them, but those are CG sharks. I want a guy like Joe who built a real, honest-to-God 2-ton shark.
Well, he's the only one that did that. Everybody else is...
CG.
Remember?
Not Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is mechanical sharks.
Really?
It's one of the best shark movies ever.
Oh, well, there we go. Who are those people?
That was, oh, God.
Who starred in that?
Oh, that was the guy who walks around shoeless at the Long Beach Comic-Con, Thomas Jane.
Thomas, what? He goes shoeless?
Yeah, he walks around the Comic-Con shoeless. My friend Al's girlfriend, Jennifer.
He was the second Punisher.
Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren and him.
No, he's the first Punisher. Oh, no, you're right, after Dolph. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't count that one because he wasn't wearing the Punisher.
The Dolph one, remember we had an illegal copy on
I remember that because
VHS at Clubhouse Comics.
Clubhouse Comics had the legal copy. Actually, it was Volta Comics.
It was Volta Comics up at the top of Euclid.
And the Punisher movie is crazy racist. It's Italians versus Asian mobs. And poor Dolph Lundgren, he's caught in the middle of a terrible... It's shot in Australia, but they're pretending it was made here.
And he's a Swedish eagle.
And he's Swedish, but he's playing an angry Italian guy. So, you know.
But Thomas Jane, he fought... Now, what about the females that were in that movie?
Pretty forgettable.
Pretty forgettable, huh?
It was not a good movie. I mean, Louis
But
Gossett
they had real
Jr.
sharks, man.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about. Punisher.
No. Who's the female lead?
No. Okay. The female. Actually, this is a great story. The female lead. I'm blanking on her name, but the story about Deep Blue Sea. And I'll be honest to you, when I interviewed Rennie Harlan, the director, for another movie, I didn't have the guts to ask him. But Rennie Harlan had just had a giant divorce from Gina Davis, where he, I guess, lost a lot of money. And the rumor is he had her wearing the female lead, the evil scientist who dies the worst. She has the worst, most terrible death in the movie.
Oh.
But supposedly she was wearing Gina Davis wardrobe from previous movies.
Ooh.
Supposedly their birthmark in the movie is painted on to look like Gina Davis's.
Are you serious? They did that for homage or what?
Yeah, well, no, I think it was, she dies a brutal death, so I don't think there was any homage about it. I think if you gave someone half your money, you need to see them eaten by a shark as catharsis. So that's the story I was told, but I didn't have the testicular fortitude to ask Rennie Harlan to his face. So print the legend, I say.
Okay.
But it's a great story.
Other than that, all the other ones are CG sharks.
Well, if you want,
remember we saw when we went in and saw Anthony.
Oh, don't say Bourdain; it's too soon.
No, Anthony Ferrante.
Yeah, I know Anthony Ferrante.
When he brought us into Asylum and he was working on it.
Well, my friend Bill Boudel, who Bill's on my trivia team, Hills Up Thighs.
Remember, he was filling up the LA River with water, and then had those little. It was like the first layer of CG. It was kind of like a transparent.
Yeah, they're trying to put water in the LA River, which if anyone knows, the LA River is a trickle.
Cousin Oliver gets killed with a piece of
Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Remember he said, my mom always said Hollywood would kill me, and then the Hollywood sign.
Boom, and it lands and kills him after he rescues those poor children on the school bus.
Good, brave Cousin Oliver, or Dr. Z if you're a fan of Battlestar 1980.
Thank you, Robbie Rist, for saving the children.
We appreciate you doing it for the children, Robbie.
Yeah. As much as you hate kids.
Yeah, that was very. We know that. What's his name? Pagasic. Remember the kid who mispronounced in the 70s? Mason Reese wouldn't have done that for the kids.
Yeah,
Mason Reese would have saved his own fat ass, Robbie. But you stepped up.
Yeah, you stepped up.
You died for the children.
He said, "This is for the Borgeshmord."
Like a good child star, you died for the children.
With that Underwood deviled ham chicken spread.
You had to die, Robbie Rist, before you found out your parents had squandered your money in violation of the Coogan Act. Little child actor humor here on the Jeff Sargent Show, gang. Jeff and Janky coming at you.
God, what would happen to us, Pat, if we were former child stars? Would we be here right now, or would we be in the streets, or would we? Where would we be working?
We'd be probably drinking with the homeless guys about 5 feet in front of the studio. I know it's interesting to me because it messes with their heads. I mean, my brother Don is a toy train collector, and my brother Don collects toy trains. And we were on an edition in Burbank, and we stopped at he and I stopped at this Burbank toy train.
Oh my God, Richard Karn's calling. Let's get
crap.
in
Okay,
here.
I'll finish the Don Gary. Remind me tomorrow. Arnold from Different Strokes and my brother Don. Good story.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Hi, Richard.
Hey, Richard Karn, pride of Seattle. How are you, good sir?
The pride of Seattle. That's pretty.
Right.
Sounds like I played for the Mariners.
Somebody should. Did you grow up in Seattle, Rich? Oh, this is Richard Karn, of course, a great actor on the wonderful Detroiters. If you guys saw his episode of Detroiters, I laughed so hard.
True. I did. I grew up in Seattle, but gosh, I think I've lived in California now longer than I grew up in Seattle.
Well, where did you live in Seattle? Are you a Wallingford boy or?
I was North End. Went to
Wow.
Roosevelt High School. I was up there in the Wedgwood area, which the pride and joy of Wedgwood was a giant rock. It was this huge rock right in the middle of the neighborhood that people could climb. I mean, it was the size of a house rock.
Really? And
Yeah.
Wow. No, my Seattle quiz is thus. Were you ever a seafarer pirate?
No, sadly, no. But I had friends that were, and they said from what they could remember, they had a great time.
In the age of Me Too, though, seafarer pirates are a lot more polite than they did when we were kids.
But I went to the Seafair, the parade that was downtown, and Seafair was a big deal in Seattle. It really was a lot of fun.
Wow. And did you go after Home Improvement broke? Did you go back as like the guest of honor or anything at Seafair?
Oh, I did a parade during Seafair, but it was up in Issaquah.
Wow.
Issaquah is where Costco was created. The first Costco was up there, but that's just east of Seattle. I grew up with a summer house that was up on Pine Lake, which is above Lake Sammamish. It's a lot of stuff to remember, but I did a parade there years ago as the Grand Marshal. And that was fun.
Wow. The Grand Marshal of the Issaquah parade.
When I was 5.
Wow. Was that exciting? You got to be on going back as a conquering hero, especially a syndicated conquering hero. That's got to feel good, right?
It's you get better tables.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever meet Ivor Haglund,
No.
the founder of Ivor's?
The what?
The founder of the great seafood restaurant Ivor's.
Oh, I never did.
Wow.
I got to be on JP Patches
Oh, you were on JP Patches? Really? As a
Yes.
kid or an adult?
as an adult.
Wow. That's fantastic. How was JP Patches? The only clown who lived in the city dump but was still beloved by children.
Oh my gosh, it was
show us?
it was hysterical because he couldn't believe I knew all the references, and I kept saying stuff, and he goes, "I can't believe you knew that stuff." But growing up in Seattle, we had all these local shows that were kind of cultivating our senses of humor and how we looked at stuff before we saw cartoons.
Right.
We
Almost
had
Live.
JP.
Yeah.
What else?
Almost Live. Did you ever do Almost Live?
Oh, well, that was late at night. That was
Yes.
for adults. I did a play with one of the guys. We did Beyond the Fringe.
Really?
One of the guys that created Almost Live. But no, I never did that.
And have you ever been to the last of my Seattle quiz before we talk about everything, boys? Richard, the last of my Seattle quiz is, have you ever been to Archie McPhee's in Wallingford?
Well, yeah.
Because they let me know, Archie McPhee's in Wallingford, Richard Karn, let me know that they want a signed picture of you on their wall.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
So Shauna Iverson, the proprietress of Archie McPhee's, told me, please tell Richard Karn, as a Seattle born and bred celebrity, they need his picture and face on the wall of Archie McPhee's.
Well, my mom grew up pretty close to there. She was in the Ballard. She went to Ballard High School, but she grew up over kind of by the zoo.
My mom did too, over in Wallingford.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So wow, we have history.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting, though. I got to ask you, Richard Karn, when you started out, what did you get your SAG card on?
I got my SAG card on the second commercial I did in New York.
Wow. Do you remember what it was for?
The first commercial I did was for Michelob beer. And that kind of paid my rent for a year and a half.
Wow, you did a Michelob beer commercial?
Yeah, it was a really good. That was my first week in New York. Then I think I did something like a Schick razors something, and that's when I got my SAG card and then bought into equity through the back door.
Wow. Wow, nicely
Right on.
done, good sir.
Now, I heard this story. I don't know how it went, but weren't you to get you got the part on Home Improvements? Were you standing in line at the court building, paying a ticket or something, and a director walks up?
That's a story going around about you, Rich. Is that true?
Tell us about that.
No, you know, I was at the I was at the soda fountain at you know, someplace. Oh no, actually, I got the chance to audition for Home Improvement because I spent 8 hours at traffic school sitting next to this woman who turned out to be an agent and told me that these people that I knew were creating this new show.
Oh, wow. Really?
I knew them from like 5 years before when I went out to Indiana to do a playwrights conference where they needed actors to read the plays in progress for the playwrights to hear, and then they would rewrite it. Almost like they were doing a script, you know, a comedy script, only it was for theater. And, you know, that's when I met those guys. So I felt like you know, in this business, there's not a lot of times you can call up the main person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I felt comfortable enough to just, you know, call them up, or maybe stupid enough. Basically, you know, when you get into this business, what you need is to be stupid. You have to open all these doors that as you get older you realize, I better not open that door. That's kind of rude or whatever.
No fear, though. No fear got you where you are, you know?
No fear. So I called them up, and they, you know, but very matter-of-factly, they weren't trying to hurt my feelings or anything. They said, well, there's nothing there for you.
Wow.
There's a neighbor. We've already cast him. Tim has an assistant. We cast him. There's, you know, the boys are all younger. There's nothing in there for you. So why don't you come in and audition anyways for our casting director?
Well.
And that's what happened. I went in. I did the scene. It was hysterical. Probably a scene they had seen 50 times or 500 times or whatever. The audition scene for Tim's assistant was originally going to be called Glenn.
Wow.
And it was supposed to be an older guy, right?
Oh, it's going to be Stephen Tobolowsky?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was in Groundhog Day. He's been in a million things.
Famous, you know, he does that great, there's a great documentary of him talking about acting and everything that's kind of interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Was this your first, was this the first day of traffic school, or was this, how many days did you have to, was it a one-day traffic school deal?
Yeah, 1 day, but 8 hours.
Oh, 8 hours. So you got to know this woman pretty good then.
Yeah.
So
funny side note, 10 years later after the show's over, I get another ticket.
Could you pull the old, don't you know who I am?
I wasn't anybody. I was just at traffic school talking to this woman next to me who turned out to be an agent who didn't sign me, actually.
Really?
I called her up and she goes, well, we have a lot of people like you. We have a lot of actors, you know, we wouldn't service you that well. And I'm going, I'm bringing you a pilot. She goes, I know, but it's not enough.
Wow. But that's fascinating to me that when you look at your stuff, and everything you've jumped around and doing, to me, it's amazing to see that you know what I mean? You've got the power to choose. You're on TV all the damn time. You know what I mean? In rerun form. Does that excite you?
You would think I have the power to choose, but there's not a lot of choice, you know, for actors for hire. If I were a producer, and believe me, I tried to be a producer. I don't have that talent. You can create the jobs for yourself, and a lot of actors do that. And I didn't have the tenacity of going through all that.
But Rich, did you set up a production company? Do you produce your own stuff now?
I'm starting to do it again after years of, you know, presenting something and then seeing it a year later with somebody else in it. So I'm not going to tell you what it is.
No, of course not. You know, but what are you going to call your company?
We have a working title right now, Karn Productions.
Oh, all right, that's charming.
I Karn do that.
No,
yeah, it's a Karn attitude.
Did Stephen Tobolowsky eventually forgive you for taking the gig of his life?
He did. I ran into him at Arch Deli.
Oh my God!
And I went up to him, and he immediately, said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't take that job. You were great in it, but he was married to Beth Henley."
No.
Who wrote Crimes of the Heart?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so he's never stopped working. He's he's prolific.
Wow, this is true. That's amazing. Well, speaking of prolific and always working, let's hear a few words on Legend of the Mummy with Amy Locane and Louis Gossett Jr.
Oh, wow. How did you ever find that movie?
I saw it, Smarty. I liked it. It's very gory.
Yeah. I die in a phone booth.
Yes, you do.
And that tells you how old the movie is.
Yeah, I can't find a walk-in phone booth anywhere.
Nowhere. I get like electrocuted or something.
You messed with the
That was a fun movie. That was kind of, very low budget horror movie in the early 90s, and this is when you're supposed to be trying to to do a breakout thing to separate yourself from whatever you got famous in, and apparently this is what I thought would do that.
Well, I mean, you were on it with the girl from Melrose Place who was arrested for drunk driving. So,
yes, but I don't. Did I have scenes with her? I can't even remember.
Thought you were warning her on the phone when you got killed.
Was it Shannon?
No, it was. Oh God, what's her name? Amy Locane.
Oh, okay.
And let me ask you, by the way, when you did that with a really great low-budget director. He did a lot of cool 80s horror. His name was Jeffrey Obrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you remember about him? Because I liked his stuff. He did a great 1987 movie where he turns Corbin Bernsen's wife into a fish. It's true. It's a great movie. It's the last movie Zira from Planet of the Apes did before she died. I'm blanking on the title, but
what I remember the most is that he was very comfortable, and he could move through stuff quickly and say, "This is what we need," or do that again. I need this, for coverage or whatever. He was really, he was efficient. He was good and helped, a lot of the actors that needed the help. And he gave them the help.
Wow. And I mean, it was as one of your first big movie, quote unquote big movie at the time, from the director of The Dorm That Dripped Blood. Was that fun to do? I mean, did you think this was your big break? Because it came like a year or two before your real big break, No,
I think I got it after Home Improvement.
Seriously?
Wow. I don't know. As you get older, everything kind of melds together. I might have to go back and look at my timeline. However,
the 90s were very blurry to me.
Yeah, we had to write everything down. So
we had walk-in phone booths, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh my God!
And now all the ones on the streets now, the phones are like broken off, and you just see a cord dangling.
Yeah, and all the horror movies,
and you still see people walking up looking for change in the phone hole.
That's why all these horror movies made nowadays are period pieces. Because you can't do a horror film in the age of the cell phone. The cops will be there in 3 minutes.
Right, you can't.
And how about the action scenes where the guy's on the phone and the guy's going to kill him with the car and he smashes his car into the phone booth and he escapes just in time.
And poor Superman, he doesn't have any place to change.
Yeah.
But give them credit. 40 years ago this year, the Christopher Reeve movie acknowledges that. Remember when he runs and he sees one of the new phones and he realizes there's no phone booth?
Yeah, it was like a half booth.
Yeah. Rich, let me ask you another question. You worked on Home Improvement with a young Pamela Anderson. Could you see her trajectory? Did you know she'd be as huge as she was?
Oh, my gosh. Pam, I got to tell you, Pam Anderson was so pretty without makeup.
Wow.
That's kind of how I knew her. And when she played Lisa, the Tool Time girl, she applied very little makeup. She didn't need it. The first time we went out on some kind of an event where there was press or whatever, that she shows up, and it was like, who is this? Oh my God! It was like battle makeup. It was startling.
Wow.
But she was so pretty without it. But Pam had really wanted to do more stuff, and it was obvious the Tool Time Girl was not going to get to do, the things that she wanted to be. She wanted to be Pambo, and she finally got to do that. She did barbed wire.
Wow, that's amazing. But you could actually see her ambition then when you were doing the show.
Well, yeah. I mean, any actor that gets anywhere, there's got to be ambition there, and you want, that you have other stuff in you, and you want to do it, and Home Improvement for her was a great stepping stone.
Wow.
Then she went on to do Baywatch, which she could do a lot of other things because it's Baywatch.
Biggest syndicated hit in television history. Worldwide, at that point, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now the guy who plays Wilson, I remember, wasn't it one of the last episodes where he showed his face, and I wouldn't recognize him.
He showed his face in the last episode during the curtain call.
Wow.
That was it.
And that was, I can't remember, what was his name?
Earl Hindman.
Earl Hindman.
Earl Hindman was on Ryan's Hope for 10 years when he was living in New York. And you know who was a coffee guy for the ABC soap opera, Ryan's Hope, who was getting him coffee and stuff?
No, who?
Bob Iger.
Bob Iger, the head of the network now?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And then,
exactly. So this is back in the late 70s, early 80s.
wow, Bob Iger was fetching coffee for Earl Hindman.
Yeah. He worked his way up.
Wow.
And but Earl was in Silverado. He was in the original Taking a Pelham 1-2-3. He was in Parallax View.
I love Parallax View. Parallax View is one of those. Craig T. Nelson's wife is in Parallax View. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned it. It was also the best use of the Space Needle in a movie.
Yeah.
Remember the guy kills himself?
Opening shot.
Yes. I always thought that was one of the best Seattle movies you've ever seen. You know what I mean? What are your favorite Seattle movies anyway, Richard?
Well, gosh, Seattle movies. Well, we know it's not Frasier.
Yeah. Screw you, Burbank.
Yeah, really. I mean, they had like a couple of establishing shots. Never talked about specifics.
True.
In the town.
And his apartment was the same height as the Space Needle. I never bought that.
Yeah, well, that could be Queen Anne Hill, but Bill. Let's see, movies that had Seattle in it.
Yes.
Sleepless?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, but Sleepless in Seattle is only half there, and it's a chick flick.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that he lives in a houseboat.
Yeah.
Or a boathouse. I guess it's a boathouse.
Yeah.
And he gets in his dinghy, and he leaves Portage Bay in Lake Washington and ends up on Alki.
He must have mighty strong rowing arms. That's all I can say.
Well, he had to go through the lock. That's a day event right there. Let's see. Do you remember The Killing?
Oh my God! Yes.
That took place in Seattle, and they did a really great. And you know what else just took place in Seattle is Once Upon a Time.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
They kept referencing the troll under the bridge all the time.
I love the Fremont troll, man. It's one of the you can't go to Seattle without stopping to see it. You know.
So, well, the Fremont Troll, Beth's Cafe. There's a lot of things you got to do.
Yeah, and the Pike and all that. But Trouble in Mind. You ever see Trouble in Mind where Divine plays a crime boss?
No.
It's this cool Alan Pakula movie. I think it's Pakula. Seattle's this weird futuristic city. Chris Christopher's in it. Genevieve Bujold. Great use of Seattle as like a sci-fi type Blade Runner type city.
And what's it called?
Trouble in Mind. It came out in the 80s. I don't even think
I'll look it up.
Yeah, please do. You'll dig it. When you did Seattle TV, what other shows did you do besides the great JP Patches?
That's about it. I mean, I did a couple of, one of those shows where they talk about stuff at length. I never really did much Seattle TV. That I can think of. A couple of interviews here and there,
wow.
Cairo and Como. But I went to school with Stan Borson's kids.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah. Ann was in my class, and Biff was a couple years ahead of me.
Wow.
That's weird. But I spent the 80s, basically 79 to 90 in New York.
Oh,
I was
seriously?
in Manhattan for 11 years.
No. Besides commercials, what else were you doing there?
I was being jobbed out of New York, that's for sure. I'd go off and do regional theater. They would cast it in New York, and then you'd go off to Actors Theater Louisville or the Players Theater in Columbus or someplace around the country. I did a bunch of off-Broadway shows. I was in the Broadway production of Me and My Girl with Robert Lindsay.
Wow.
I met my wife doing a play off-Broadway directed by Walter Bobby.
Really?
This was the first thing he really had directed as a director. He was an actor making the changeover, and then he went on a couple of years later to get the Tony for the reimagining of Chicago.
Wow.
So he always felt like he cast us in our marriage.
And had she done anything horror movie-wise or sci-fi, your wife?
What she had done was Broadway. I mean, maybe the closest to horror she ever did was she worked with Jerry Lewis in Hell's a Poppin'.
Really? She worked with Jerry Lewis? Wow.
Yeah. It was a play that predated Sugar Babies. Hell's a Poppin' kind of closed out of town because there was a big brouhaha between the producers and Jerry, and then like a year later, the show kind of came back as Sugar Babies.
Wow! Oh, so that was a reworked Hell's a Poppin'. I did not know that. I saw the movie. I never knew they did I never knew it emerged from that.
Yeah.
So,
and then she did me. Day in Hollywood, Night in Ukraine. She played Harpo.
Wow. She played Harpo Marx.
Yeah, she took over for Priscilla Lopez, who had won the Tony like a year or so before.
Wow, without a single line of dialogue, obviously,
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I want to know, Richard, was Detroiters filmed in Detroit, or was it here?
Absolutely was.
Really?
In
You
fact,
flew to Detroit?
We were right down there, and they had us in like a Masonic temple.
Yes, the Masonic temples where they did a lot of shows when you went to Michigan.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Very bizarre. And then we went over to some other place to film. That was the weirdest thing because did you see it? Did you see my episode of The Detroiters?
I love your episode of The Detroiters. It's my favorite episode of the series.
Well,
they show up and they go, "We'd like you to be you.
Yeah.
We'd like you to play Richard Karn." I go, "Okay." And you're the host of the D Awards. I go, "Great. What are those?" The Detroit advertising awards.
Like their version of the Genie or something,
Yeah. And so they say, "Well, okay, we'd like you to learn this song." I go, "Oh." So I have to sing. He said, "Well, yeah, you're the host, so you're going to be singing this song." So I learn the song. I show up, and they go, "Did you learn the song?" And I go, "Yeah." "Can you sing it?" And so I kind of sang it, and they go, "Great! Oh, that's great. Also, we want you to do a magic trick, and we have a magician here that's going to teach you how to do that." And I swear to God, I had no rehearsal. I show up. There's 150 extras sitting around tables to look like they're at an award show. The song and the banter and the magic trick and everything. Well, we're going to shoot the guys sitting at the table first. So just go ahead and do that stuff. No rehearsal, no choreography for the song. I have to burst out of a I have a tuxedo underneath flannel.
Yeah. So
I worked all that stuff out, and then they turn the camera on me and they go, "Hey, what you were doing was great. Let's just go with that." So I did that.
I got to apologize to my brother Donald. I told him he was full of crap when he insisted they shot it in Michigan.
See, Patrick was born and he was raised in Michigan.
And I spent every summer in Seattle with my mom's side of the family in Wallingford. So, yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, that's why Home Improvement, to every Detroiter I knew, every Detroiter loved the fact that Home Improvement was set in Michigan, and you guys actually would mention Michigan places.
Oh, yeah. Tim was very adamant about that. He says, if they were going to go see a movie, he said, "Well, where? Which movie theater?" And then are we going to stop before? He was very adamant about making cultural signposts along the way.
But you have no idea how important that was to actual Detroit people to hear those sort of references. Especially in a hit show, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if it had been Seattle and they said we're going to go to the Guild 45 or we're going to go downtown to the Cinerama Dome, that would pop in my head. But when Tim would say, "Well, we're going to go to yada yada or whatever,"
Showcase Cinema, yeah,
it meant nothing to me because I'd never really lived in Detroit.
By the way, bad news, Rich. The Guild 45 is closed.
What?
Yeah, they closed the Guild 45. It was a block from my grandma's house. It's now closed.
Oh, no.
And they closed the Neptune, too. The Neptune is now a normal theater, really a performance theater. But all these great Seattle landmarks are collapsing. You heard they want to close the Alaska Way overpass.
Yeah, that kind of, all of that beautiful downtown view was being kind of, monopolized by that 99. But
right.
Where else are they going to put the cars? I mean, there's not a lot of other places for cars to move through downtown Seattle unless you're on the 5, and that doesn't move very fast.
They want to put you underwater now. They want to dig a hole and put you under the water driving along. Nothing could happen there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, man. They got Elon Musk up there with his tunnel machine.
I wish. He's supposedly making the 405 more livable out here.
Well, they did use the big tunnel machine and it broke. And
yes.
They had to wait for a few months.
Trust me, my sister lives in West Seattle, and she's thrilled that they want to charge admission to go to Seattle to West Seattle. That thrills her and my aerospace engineer brother-in-law Jim. They're just thrilled to pieces by everything Seattle's been doing.
It's like pay toll.
Hey, I'd pay money to go have brunch at Salty's.
By the way, nice local reference there, sir. When's the last time you went home, Rich? When's the last time you went back to Seattle?
Last summer I was there like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, good man.
I've been going up to either Russell Wilson's golf tournament or Lenny Wilkins now has one that he has at Newcastle. And have you ever been to Newcastle?
I don't believe it. I've been to Seattle every year since I was 6 months.
You got to drive up to Newcastle. There's a restaurant at the golf course. It's a really nice see but the view is you see downtown Bellevue, you see downtown Seattle, you see Mamish, Washington, the Sound. It's an incredible view that growing up in Seattle I never really saw before until they lopped off the mountain and put a place up there.
Wow. No, if I can ask you a couple of questions on home improvement. When did you guys feel did you guys have an immediate chemistry? Because it looked really relaxed between you two, and I know that takes a lot of work to get that going with another actor,
Well, Tim was a stand-up, and he was a little nervous about his acting prowess the first year or so. So he would make a lot of jokes, and he would talk about this and that. So I felt like when I was just filling in the first couple of episodes, I was really kind of there as a support dog in a way, a support actor, just making sure Tim was comfortable and consequently we had a good time and it was funny. The audience was laughing at things we were doing before we knew what was going on. It was like they saw our relationship first, which helped me get the role with the writers, because the writers saw that and goes, oh, well, this is the way to go. I mean, Steven is great, but he kept putting them off after the pilot. He got another movie and he couldn't do the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Wow.
So they brought me back, and after the first 2 or 3 episodes, they went, wow, this is working. This is great. So, what was the original question?
Well, because how long did it take you guys to build a chemistry? Because it looked really unforced and genuine.
It was unforced. Because I was old enough at that point. I was in my 30s, not to force, not to try and be more than what the role calls for. So Al is really just this guy. And by the way, they changed the character's name from Glenn to Al because Glenn was going to come back. But I just kind of, Carmen Finestra, one of the executive producer, creator, writers, came up to me one day and he said, you know why we love you? Because we don't have to write you. You can stand behind Tim and be doing stuff, and it's great. We don't have to write. We don't have to write lines. And the inner actor's going, no, I need lines. You got to write me something. I want more. And they gave it eventually.
Wow.
Now, Tim used to do the tool time in part of his stand-up comedy act.
Not necessarily tool time, but it was going to Sears hardware store and looking at the craftsmen and the whole grunt thing was eating dinner with his brothers. Past the salt was and so a lot of his act showed up in the pilot. Because as a joke might not work or whatever, they would throw something in from Tim's act, and he was getting a little, why do we need writers if we're going to use all my stuff?
Wow.
There was a little bit of a transition for him to see that everything was up for grabs and fair game.
Hey, I have to ask, when you did Air Bud 7-inning fetch. How hard was it working with the dog? Was it all reaction shots or waiting for the dog to look the right way?
That working with animals is takes a little longer because they're not always going to do the stuff you want. But a lot of times, some of that stuff is shot, and you don't have to be there. It can be just a cut back there. But I was that was a great job, and unfortunately, I didn't get to do the first one. Greg Harrison played the dad in the first one, and I guess Greg just went on to was doing something else when they needed the sequel. And this was before Disney bought them.
Wow!
This guy out of Malibu would go up to Vancouver or Toronto and film these Bud movies, Air Bud movies, and then Disney bought the franchise.
Wow, but was it? That's right, because then when they did Santa Paws, they had that at Walmart and they made gazillion dollars. But working with the dog, was it weird working with an actor who might suddenly take a dump on the set, sort of thing? You know what I mean?
No, I'd already worked with Tim.
Hey, also we were wondering, Mike Copley is coming in, and we were wondering about the Christmas movie you did. You did a Christmas movie.
I did a couple of them.
Yeah.
Which one are we talking about?
Christmas Land.
Christmas Land. That was a Hallmark one, right?
Yes.
And oh my gosh, I got to play a villain. It was like the Hallmark villain can't be too diabolical. You can't be too mean or anything like that, because they feel like their audience will turn the TV on.
Grandma will reach for the remote if you're too evil, Al Borland.
That's right. So my big evil was that I was a real estate developer that takes over this town that she really realizes is her family legacy, and she didn't want to give it up. So when she tries to come back for it, I triple the price. That's about as diabolical as I get.
But Maureen McCormick was her mom. Maureen McCormick played the mom. You worked with Marsha Brady on this?
Absolutely.
She's still adorable, right?
Yes.
There's really no other answer to that question, Richard.
No, there isn't.
Wow. So, but when doing a Hallmark movie, is it weird? Because it will run and run. What's amazing is my late great father was a sucker for the 24 Days of Christmas on the Hallmark Channel. And like you said, all the villains are sort of lukewarm. They're not really puppy kickers. They're more or less just a gentle...
You want a feel-good movie around Christmas. That's what you want.
But you're not that bad, which makes the conflict a little watered down,
No, but look, when you go back and you look at It's a Wonderful Life, you know how dark that movie really kind of can get.
Suicide, drinking, yeah.
Oh, Potter was really an evil guy.
Merry Christmas, fool, from jail.
Yeah. He watches this guy crumble, and he knows it because he's got the money in his hand that his uncle left by mistake. Oh. That's diabolical.
And the scene where he slaps the uncle, and when Jimmy Stewart, of all people, slaps the uncle, is just heartbreaking. You're right. Although it was very prescient in 1946 to have a failed SNL.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah. Hey, our 8 o'clock guest, Mike Copley, wanted to say he remembered meeting you when you had a home in Big Bear.
Really?
Yeah. Did you live in Big Bear for a while?
We had a summer cabin up on the lake.
Wow.
And I say summer cabin because I'm from Seattle, but also,
exactly.
You know, it was there for winter, so you know you could go skiing up there. You could do. It was a great year-round place.
Wow. Oh, so you loved it. You loved. Now this is an Arrowhead or Big Bear?
Big Bear.
Wow.
Arrowhead was a little more lush because it wasn't as high. But you know the lake is one way. If you take a boat on the lake, you have to go one way.
Seriously? How do you get it back?
Well, you have to go around the lake.
Wow. What a pain in the ass that must have been.
Yeah, really.
Wow. But you were obviously a born boater being from Seattle, right?
Yeah. Well, my grandpa had a boat that slept 7. It was like a 49-foot converted landing craft. And we go up in the San Juans for like a month. I had no idea how incredible that was. I just figured people did that.
You were spoiled, kid.
Spoiled, but you know, you go up for a month on a boat. You don't shower. I mean, you have to go to like, you know, the showers on the dock at Lund or you know, someplace like that. As a matter of fact, you know, Pam Anderson came from
Vancouver.
But a little town on Vancouver called Ladysmith, which was one of the places we would go in and get gas, and it had a post office and a grocery store and a gas station. That was about it.
Really? Did you tell her this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's also, I forgot to ask, you were on Family Feud.
I was.
Steve Joyner wants to know about that.
That seems like a blip now.
Tell us about Family Feud.
Well, I had done a game show a year before, oddly enough, hosted by John O'Hurley.
Wow, of Seinfeld.
They were bringing back To Tell the Truth.
Interesting.
And I was one of the panelists. I sat next to like Paula Poundstone, and
oh God, I remember
her billboards are still everywhere in Vegas.
The show got picked up. We did the pilot. The show got picked up, and the producer asked me if I'd like to do that. And in my head, I went, I don't want to do a game show that would be weird. So I said no. And like a year later, she came back and said, would you like to be the host of a game show? And I kind of said no.
Wow.
And then my agents talked me into it by, you know, circumventing the whole thing. It's like, you've done a family TV show, you've done family movies. This is just another family venue. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh yeah, okay. So I got on board, and if I'm on board, I'm on board. And I had a great time.
Good man.
It was like doing improv theater, basically.
And obviously, you had a better time hosting it than poor Ray Combs, you know.
Well, you know, that was the E Entertainment. You know, the curse of everything. They made it sound worse than it was. But Ray had other demons. He was a stand-up that wasn't a happy guy, and then gets in a car accident where he's physically debilitated.
Wow, that's terrible.
And so I think there was other stuff going on besides Family Feud.
Yeah, because remember the he played, like you said, he played it up as the curse of Family Feud.
Right. And they asked me if I was worried about the curse, and at the time I was like, no. But then I found out that they replaced the host every 4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That I did not know. That's interesting.
It's kind of weird. So after I see, you know, Louis, I took over for Louis, then John, all cut after 4 years. I went up to Steve Harvey and I said, Steve, you know that they do this? And he goes, yeah, you know, I got lots of stuff. Don't worry about it. And like a year later, I see him and he goes, you know, I was thinking about what you're saying. That's interesting. I you know, most people don't talk about that kind of stuff. Thanks for the heads up. And he's in his 5th year now.
Wow. So he's beating the curse so far.
He beat the curse. But you got to know the curse is there before you can beat it.
Right. Like the Legend of the Mummy.
Yeah, exactly.
You took the mummy for granted and died in a phone booth.
Just don't go in the phone booth.
Hey, what do you got coming up, Richard?
Well, like I said, we're pitching a
Eastern
show
Market
to do, and Tootie and I are going to go off in November to do a play called Sheer Madness in Kansas City. We're going to go back to our theater roots, which is kind of fun.
And by the way, I'll compliment you and Tootie for not doing love letters. That seems to be the Gurney play, which is the ultimate cliche for couples on stage.
It is, and yeah, we didn't do that, but we it's good to work together again.
Oh, is it fun?
Yeah, it is.
Do you snap your fingers at her and go, keep up? This is Hollywood, baby.
Well, no, after a certain age, you have to like really pay attention because certain words won't come out of your mouth as quickly. It's like, what? You've memorized words and lines. It's like, what was that word? I know it's coming up in a couple of lines, and you either remember it or you say something else.
So you got one in pre-production. What's Eastern Market?
That's some guys out of Detroit that are trying to put together a movie, and it's been in pre-production for about 3 years.
So it is based on the Eastern Market in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the giant. No, I used to go there with my busha when I was a kid, with the giant rooster painted on it and everything.
Right.
Harrison Ford.
These guys were in a couple of movies I did there, and I think one of them even teaches an acting school in Detroit, and they're trying to put together a movie about that. So.
Really? About the Eastern Farmers Market?
Yeah. And
wow.
I would play a priest.
Oh, you would? That's kind of cool. Are you excited about that?
Well, it's been 3 years. We'll see. We'll see if it ever happens.
This is true. When the money's on the table, then you'll book the flight to Detroit.
Another thing before you go, I want to know how it came about of you going on the 70s show, hanging out with Tommy Chong.
Oh, isn't that funny? My son was playing baseball with the son of the producer of 70s, and we're both sitting out there in the grass watching our kids play baseball, and he said, you should come on the show. And I go, absolutely, I should come on the show. I had no idea, because I really hadn't watched that 70s show.
You were busy at the time, so you should be excused.
I was busy, so I said, yeah, and so it happened, like a year later, or a few months later, that they brought me on to do that. And they had this character who was a stoner with Tommy. And I got to, oh my God, I'm working with Tommy Chong. How great is that? And we go in, we do the read through on Monday, and it worked okay. But the wife, the woman who played the wife, she goes to the producers and she says, I would never hire these guys to redo my basement.
Oh no!
And they go, yeah, you're right. So the rewrite comes back, and I'm basically Al again. And so I go to the writers and I go, listen, I know, I totally understand her argument. I really get it. But I wanted to do this and not be Al. And he goes, I know. So if there's something you guys could come up with where I'm not completely Al, I would really appreciate that. And, but this is after 8 years of working on a show. You learn how to talk to writers and ask, without being blatant about it or whatever. And they came up with this great thing where I did get stoned and this and that, and the whole, payoff was not in the original script. The whole payoff of where I go back to my artistic roots and I move everything, 2 inches to the left. That was a great joke.
Yeah. And but it's so cool just to see you jumping around. I mean, you did another Hallmark movie where you played friggin' Santa Claus. Was that fun to have the top job?
Yeah. Hallmark has got this kind of thing that happens in August, September, October, where they will produce these little movies for December. So you do the movie, and like 2 months later, it's on the air.
Wow.
And they probably have 4 or 5 or 6 Christmas movies going on. I did one last year called Love Comes to Gulfport, and it was really a lovely little movie that was on Lifetime.
Wow. That's kind of exciting, though, because when they run the marathons, you'll see yourself again and again,
Well, if you watch.
Touche, good sir. Hey, and what is the coolest thing you did? You know, if there's one project of yours that you feel doesn't get enough love, what would it be?
I really enjoyed doing this play called The Foreigner. I really, really enjoyed doing that play. That was a lot of fun. And then recently, I did a Neil Simon. I did You Ought to Be in Pictures, and that was fascinating. I mean, I was on stage every night, and I would cry because I'm talking to my son that I never met on the phone. On the phone. Yeah, so this is a play that was written back in the 80s, and you couldn't, update it to be a cell phone.
No, that's right. And it was also cool because even though it was you talking to your son in the Neil Simon play, you got killed by the mummy, which I thought was daring of the theater director.
Right.
That's what we call a callback. Hey, Richard, what else is coming up? What else can we see you in, and how can we follow you on Facebook? In a good way, and not in a weird.
I'm not that great on social media, but
you do some good Instagrams.
I am, but not much. I feel like what am I going to post? It's like I got to get somebody to help me with that.
Well, you saw that one I posted where you were taking the hammer to my head from the Hollywood show.
I did.
Yeah.
And on behalf of everyone who knows Jeff, we wish you really went through with it. Smash his melon head open.
Before you go, I would like to introduce you to our in-studio guests, Mike Copley.
And Ken Carpenter. And they're saying hi. They're waving at you. You can't see them.
Hey, I was stationed up in Fort Lewis, Washington.
Speak right in there on the headphones.
Yeah, I was up in Fort Lewis, Washington, stationed up there in the 70s.
Oh, my gosh. That's tough.
Special
Fort Lewis
forces.
is not an easy place to be stationed.
No, Special Forces up there. I was Mike Pierce lives up there. He was married to Patty Duke, and they live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but she passed away a couple years ago, and Mike married her back in the 80s.
Wow.
Well, Coeur d'Alene is the place to go before turning pro. That was their ad for the summer theater.
Wow.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
That's hilarious. And it's amazing. Were you a Brown and Haley fan when you lived in Seattle?
I'm sorry.
Mountain Bars, the guys who did Mountain Bars, Uno Bars, and Almond Roca?
No. I mean, I ate the Almond Roca, but I figured, everybody. I didn't think it was we had Baum's chocolate house that made a great sheet almond roca. That's what we did every year for Christmas.
God. We had in junior high, that was our school fundraiser candy, almond roca, and we had to sell that stuff.
Yeah. In the pink cans with the gold
exactly,
wrappers.
yeah.
Unbreakable. And you use them as penny jars as a kid once you're
A lot
done.
of caps and crowns came off with that candy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I preferred the Mountain Bars myself. I thought they can't sell them here because they melt, the Mountain Bar,
Right.
Wow. Hey, and also, Rich, remember you owe Shauna and Archie McPhee's wants your face on the wall there.
Okay. I'm going up.
Yay.
I'll be up there in August.
Okay, make sure you stop.
Right on.
Hey, Richard,
All right. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Hold on.
Real quick, do you still go up to Big Bear at all? You still go up there? I live up there.
I haven't been up to Big Bear in years.
Okay, yeah, the lake's down really, really bad. I got a boat. Hopefully I can put some water or put it in the water this year. It's really bad.
God.
The lake's down about 15, 20 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. We need that big March rain is what we need. March rain and snow.
Well, I met you up there quite a few years ago. So
That's amazing. Yeah. But okay, Richard, enjoy Seattle. Say hi to Shauna and Archie McPhee and have a great day, okay?
Hey, thanks for calling in, man.
We appreciate you,
Take
sir.
care,
Talk to you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow. Now let's hit the ground running. We've gone from the lovable Al Borland, now played by the great Richard Karn, Seattle's own. Now we're going right to a Cenobite from Hellraiser. 3, we got Mike Copley bringing in the great Ken Carpenter of Lake Arrowhead.
Thanks.
Say hello to us, distinguished fellow.
You ready for your close-up, boys?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was great. Last week, when was it? 2 weeks ago, Ken, I was at the Santa Ana Frida Theater that plays cult movies, and I was waiting about 20 minutes before viewing Phantom of the Paradise, which I haven't seen on the big screen since '74 when it came out, when I snuck into the movies for all day long.
Right.
Wow.
And it was, oh my God, the color, just to see a Brian De Palma film on the big screen.
Talk to us about Phantom of the Paradise. Who'd you play in it? How'd you get the part?
You know, the way that came together was Paul Williams, not the singer Paul Williams. He was on that project too. But Paul Williams was Ed Pressman's partner on that.
Oh, you met Ed Pressman.
And Ed Pressman wanted to ask Paul if I wanted a job. So they said, yeah, you drive a truck to Dallas. We're going to shoot Paramount for a couple of days. So we shot in town for a couple of days. And then they gave me a truck and a gal to ride in the truck with me to Dallas, and where we had a huge theater. And once we got to Dallas, I gave it my truck driving rights, and they turned me into a third AD.
Wow.
Because they have like crowd scenes, a lot of crowd scenes going on in there.
That's right, with the bands and the performances.
And I'll tell you, the music I think was fabulous.
Oh man, those the backup musicians, they were backed up everybody.
Juicy Fruits. When you said that the other day, I said, "Oh yeah, man, I remember that Juicy Fruits."
The Juicy Fruits. How was it? Like Archie Hahn? He was in another band on Saturday. They did another phony band called the Offshore Boys, where they put on beers and like oil riggers, and they were like a parody of the Beach Boys.
Yeah, no, those guys are great. And I think that whole thing. Brian was a very interesting guy.
Yeah, tell us about that.
He is an amazing director. He's kind of sterile. I mean, he's very large. He looks like a guru. You know, he's like he's got this huge belly, and he sits back and he just does his thing. And you don't want to get in his wrong side, you know. But I've had some moments with him. I'll tell you about later.
Please,
Yeah.
So anyway, we're shooting in Dallas, and it's good. You know, and they asked me, said, well, why don't we Taft-Hartley you? So I said, why don't you, you're going to be on a cart on the stage before it blows up. And I said, what? What blows up? I said, well, there's going to be an explosion on the stage, and you have to leap out of the way before it happens. And I
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm expendable, you know, go for it, you know. You know, I'm from Wyoming, man, I can handle it. So anyway, we pushed the cart around. They said, get the hell off the stage now before it goes. And we jump off the stage, an explosion and everything else. And it's kind of the end of the movie, or that part of it anyway. So anyway, we had a good time. Dallas is a great place to shoot. The theater was great. Met some great gals. Made some great people there.
Did you meet one of the girls in the movie went on to become a big voiceover actress? Did you meet the great Saratoga Ballantyne? She was one of the Crow girls.
I didn't. Well, I probably did, but I just didn't. I didn't recognize it now. You know, I did. One of the other gals I did meet there. There was an extra in it, and she ended up coming and hanging out with me in L.A. And she eventually went on to a soap opera.
Who was she?
God.
Oh, you just killed the story for us, Ken. This is the big lead up, and that woman was Gina Francis.
Yeah. I can't even remember.
Wow.
But I mean, from there anyway, we shot. We were ready to wrap up. We're going to New York next. So Pressman people came to me and said, "Okay, now you're going to be the production manager, and you're going to wrap Dallas." And I said, "Great, looks like an elevation in my job." And so they packed up and they went to New York. So I'm sitting in the office and feeling rather good. And the head of the Teamsters comes in and he says, Mr. Carpenter, you're not going to New York with a camera crew. And I said, I'm not? And he said, no. You guys owe us $60,000.
What?
And I said, what do you mean? He said, they didn't pay.
Oh, no. And you're going to get your teeth knocked in.
Yeah, and so I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's get on the phone right now. And so I called Ed Pressman in New York, and I said, listen, man, I'm not really pleased about this situation because they're not threatening to, they're going to, blow me up.
Yeah, for real.
I said, so we need to get these guys paid so I can get out of here. So Ed said, well, let me shuffle around and see if I can raise some money. So he finally raised some money, and so I said, the camera trucks are not leaving.
Oh, God.
Until, that happens. So eventually they paid us. Went on to New York. I got to New York, and they were shooting at the Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Fame.
And,
the Fame Academy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was raining. The place looked like it turned into an ice palace.
Wow.
And they had all these guys that held as angels there. They were running around in vests, similar to the shirt that you're wearing, Jeff.
Yeah.
And kind of, it was colder than hell. It was like 20, 30 degrees or something like that. And the AD was a chick. And she come up to me and she said, what are we going to do? Because we've got a problem here. These guys don't want to behave. I mean, they're pushing people out of the way with sticks. And I said, well, I went to the guy and I said, what's the problem? He says, we're fucking freezing our ass off. And I said, whoops.
That's okay.
I love that one slide.
All right.
It's a good story. I think
It's
as long as we
uncensored
don't drop
radio.
any F-bombs, we're good.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I said, what do you want? And he says, we want some tequila. And I said, to the AD, I said, get him tequila.
Wow.
The easiest way out of this one. So we got him tequila, and everything was fine for the night. So we're wrapping. We shoot about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and we wrapped it up. And they said, you're the driver now. You're going to drive Brian home. And I said, wait a minute, wait. I'm from Wyoming, man. I don't know anything about New York. They said, well, that's okay. You'll be fine. So I'm driving Brian and his attaché, whatever you want to call it, somebody that was with him.
Guy or girl?
Yeah, there was a guy.
Oh, okay.
Young guy, good-looking guy.
Uh-huh.
So we're cruising down the boulevard, and everything was just crystal. It was just polished, and the streets were like, you couldn't even stand up. So I'm driving.
Was it snow or?
No, just ice that froze. It was rain. It froze. Everything was frozen. So I'm driving home, driving down the boulevard, and all of a sudden, the car starts going sideways. And Brian is in the back seat looking. He said, excuse me, Carpenter, what are we doing here? And I said, well, the streets are really slick. And he said, people were going sideways. And I just said, yes. And we kept going sideways through an intersection. Luckily, there was no traffic. And we finally got into a safe spot down below. And he said, listen, I just want to get home, man, and we'll wrap it up there, okay? And I said, fine. So anyway, it was New York.
A power slide on ice with Brian De Palma.
And he didn't hit anything. Well,
his eyes were bigger than I've ever seen.
Wow.
I mean, he's normally pretty squinty, right? But he's not in this case. He was kind of surprised by that. But it was a good shoot, and I had a good time, and it was a good movie.
Was this at the time he was dating Margot Kidder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Margot was in the picture. I ran into Margot later on. I ran into Margot when we were working on a thing called Ketchum with Jimmy Garner, John Beck, and who else was on?
Oh, you worked with John Beck from Rollerball.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
No, I knew John. In fact, John was one of the reasons I came to L.A. was I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I was a river guide working for the Grand Teton Lodge Company.
My friend Sandy does that. She was a river guide.
Was she?
Yeah.
Great job.
Wow.
And I was going to school at the University of Wyoming at the time, and in the summers I'd spent up there. Well, I was a senior. I just graduated, and so I got up there, and I was hanging out with this gal at the Pink Garter Theater in Jackson Hole. And the lady that ran the operation said, do you want to work as an extra for the company that's in town, Warner Brothers? And I said, sure, why not? I was getting wrapped at the lodge. It was getting done for the season, so they said, sure, come on. So I went down. I went to work for Warner Brothers, and I was a double for John Beck. And,
really?
Yeah.
And this is on Ketchum?
This is on a movie called The Unexpected Mr. Polifax by Rosalind Russell, Darren McGavin, Nehemiah Persoff, Harold Gould, and
Darren
John
McGavin. How was Darren McGavin? Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Listen, McGavin said to me, he said, hey, let me tell you something. You don't want to be in this business. He says, don't do it. You'll never make it.
Oh, God. Words of encouragement.
What a bad person.
And I said, thank you, Mr. McGavin. I appreciate it. Kind words.
Was he drinking or just bitter?
No, he's just bitter. But anyway, Darren was cool. I liked him. He was a really good guy. I ran into him a couple times after that.
The rumor was he was an ex-con. Was there any truth to that you knew of?
I don't know.
Okay, because I'd heard that an old actor told me Darren was an ex-con, and
wouldn't surprise me. There's a few of them out there.
Wow.
So anyway, but that's how I met. And then John and I became really good friends. In fact, when John went after that movie wrapped, they went to L.A. Warner Brothers said, "You want to come to L.A.?" And I said, "Sure." So I came to L.A. and they got me in the union. I flew in. I'd never been to California before. I flew into LAX, and John picked me up. And
John himself picked you up?
Yeah, and I stayed
cool
I
dude.
lived at his place in Venice. He had a house in Venice on Oceanfront Boulevard.
Wow.
2709 Oceanfront.
Wow, that's so great. He'll be mad if that's still his home.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. He lives in Santa Barbara now. So anyway, I hung out with John for many years, and we've been friends forever, I know the family very well. I've known all of his kids over the years and stuff like that. John's a great guy.
He's a cool dude. He's Moon Pie and he's
Rollerball. Yeah,
he's Moon Pie and Rollerball. He was the first animated Punisher on the '90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah,
he's one of those dudes. You know what I mean? He's always the cop or the football player. North Dallas 40 and everything.
Oh yeah,
else.
with Matt Davis. I remember that one.
And he is. I don't know what he's doing now. I mean, I haven't seen him in many years, but it'd be great to be able to work with him some point in time again.
He starred in the worst version ever made of the Time Machine. It wasn't his fault, but it was Sun Classics, this cheap Utah documentary company, did like a $1.50 version of the Time Machine.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember all those movies in the 70s they did? Sun Classics?
Yeah,
Family Robinson,
in
the
search,
Wilderness Family.
in search of historic Bigfoot and all that stuff.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
They,
Sun Classics.
when John did Catch 'Em with Jimmy Garner, and Margot was in that, and also who was trying to think of the guy's name that was also in that. Anyway, Margot, she had a place on the beach. And
The $200 a month place, and the dudes.
yeah, so we're down there. One day we were down there. Tina, John's wife, and John, and Margot went down to her house. We're going to go hang out on the beach, and she said, "I'm going to strip my clothes and run on the beach." And I said, "Just a minute."
So I'll be right there.
So I rip off my clothes.
Welcome to the gun show.
Drop it all, man, and then run. I'm running down the beach with Margot Kidder. Nobody's on the beach,
By the way,
and it's
my
just
10-year-old fan
running in the surf and it was great. Margot and I never engaged.
You saw Lois Lane naked in person, my
Yeah.
friend. You didn't need to engage.
I didn't need to engage,
Barefoot on the sand. Does it get
Every
better than
10-year-old
that?
boy's dream.
That was a
Galloping
great
down the
moment.
sand
I
with a
said,
naked Lois
if
Lane.
Mom could only see me now.
She probably wouldn't approve.
No, not at all.
Wow. So Margot was that flagrant.
Yeah, she was a good gal. Really good girl.
That's the beach house she was sharing with Jennifer Salt, right?
Probably. There was an isolated beach house. Really, right. I'm trying to think where it was. It was not, maybe Coral Canyon, something like that.
$200 a month, she told me. And she said some months it was hard coming up with her share of the $100.
Yeah, it was amazing because she was working, she was a regular on the series at that time.
Right.
But I mean, it was still, nevertheless, it was good. And Jimmy Garner was great on that show, too.
How was he? Did you like him? Talk about him. You just told us a great Darren McGavin story. What was Jimmy Garner like? You were doubling John Beck on this wasn't the one with Beck.
Yeah, I was John's stand-in. Because a lot of this stuff I did stand-in on. The Other Side of Midnight was another one I did with him.
Holy crap. By the way, the famous thing about Other Side of Midnight is Other Side of Midnight was supposed to be the hit of the summer of '77. And they traded theaters to put Star Wars in your theater. They were forcing you to take Star Wars if you wanted The Other Side of Midnight. And then based on the book where he has sex with the French girl and makes her get an abortion and all that. It's a revenge movie.
Yeah, exactly. What had happened was that was the producer on that. I was trying to think of this guy's name. He's since passed away.
Sidney Sheldon, or was it?
No, Sidney was the author. The producer was, gosh, I can't think of his name.
I'll look at it. Hold on, let's see. Other Side of Midnight. Because it was supposed to be a huge hit. And then it turned out it was a surprise bomb. And everyone was trying to push it out of theaters to get to put Star Wars in.
They had they shot part of that in France. And when they were shooting in France, John had gone over to France, and Tina didn't go, and they did not want her to go because there were some scenes in France they were going to do with Marie-France Pazier.
Holy crap.
And so they didn't want Tina to be on the set, with him at the same time, So, but as it worked out, it really, the production was a good production. I thought it was really great. We came back to L.A. and we're shooting in L.A. There's some airplane sequences.
Wow.
We shot down in Camarillo.
Yes, but
we shot in the big tank in Paramount with Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah, Susan Sarandon and Marie-France Pazier at the height of her powers.
Yeah, and Susan is great. She was really good. I mean, I really enjoyed hanging out with those guys.
And Gallagher's in that. Gallagher's in that as well.
I became good friends with Gallagher.
I love him. I peed with him behind the New Beverly sometimes. He calls it Urination Alley.
Yeah, really. Clue is a good guy.
We never crossed swords, of
I
course.
like him. He was in an airplane sequence we did in Camarillo.
Wow.
And
you met him at the Hollywood show about 2 years ago.
yeah, and I met him at the Hollywood show again. It's good to say I finally caught up with him.
Wow.
It was fun. Yeah.
No, but let's see. Are we talking about Hot Koch? Or are we talking about Jack Bernstein or the late, great Frank Yablans? Yablans, who did Mommy Dearest.
Yes.
Wow. How was he? You worked with all these legends.
Frank was a really tough guy he and John locked horns a lot on that movie. I've met Frank later on another project, and he was pretty cool. I mean, but he definitely was a tough cookie.
Wow.
He was one of Hollywood's good hard guys.
Interesting.
But that was a good movie to work on. I had a good time with that.
Wow. But it was huge. It was supposed to be huge,
I don't know why it was a marketing strategy or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I thought that, and the actor that played the character that was supposed to be like the rich Greek tycoon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his name.
Are we talking about Raph Vallone?
Yes, Raph Vallone. Raph Vallone. He's another great guy.
Yeah, he was
a great actor.
Kind of a George Papard type.
Yes. Yeah.
He was always the sweaty guy who's going to help take over the town.
Yeah.
And Charles Jarreau directed it. Wow. Did you meet Sidney Sheldon?
I didn't. I mean, he was probably on the set if he was allowed to be. I presume, but I didn't meet him. But I remember Jarreau. He was a good director, too.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I thought that was a great movie, actually.
Remember, because it opened a week after Star Wars. And when Star Wars was so huge and Other Side of Midnight failed to open, Fox was getting mad because they were trying to kick it out of their theaters to show Star Wars. And they're like, if you want to keep Star Wars, you can't touch Other Side of Midnight.
Yeah, that's funny. They had the scene that they did me another Taft-Hartley. They decided to make sure that I was Taft-Hartley a second time. So what they did is there was a scene in a bar where I'm sitting at a bar. John's supposed to be sitting at a bar, and it was a scene where he was absent, and she finally comes. Marie-France comes and looking for him. So she come up and wheels me around, thinking I'm him. And I said, no, I was just like, you wanted to have a drink or whatever,
That's great.
So it was like a quick scene, but they Taft-Hartley me in that, and that's as a second time. It was kind of stupid, but
wow.
But it was cool. I still get residuals from it.
Wow, that's cool.
But you never see it run nowadays. I mean, considering it came out the week after Star Wars, you'd think you'd see it more on TCM or AMC every now and then, but you never do.
I don't know.
My parents had a movie theater in Big Bear Lake, and they ran that movie in '77. I remember it.
Mike Copley. Wow, your parents owned the...
Yeah, they owned the Village Theater up there, which is a cave now. And they ran that movie, and I told them about that. And my parents loved that movie, Other Side of Midnight. They loved it so much that where they would sit there after the crowds leave around midnight and watch it. And it was a long movie. I think it was almost a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, it was, because there was a lot of sequences because they were shot all over the place. Yeah. They shot in France, Greece, and then of course, and they had a pretty good cast. That was pretty significant casting. So,
you know what? As much as I love you and big budget stuff, I want to talk about the Bees. And one of the Bee movies you did, the delightful and still beautiful Deanna Lund told me she nearly got kicked out of the Screen Actors Guild for doing elves with you and Dan Haggerty.
Oh, yeah. Elves. Now, there's a story.
Okay.
It's a trip, man. I'm in Colorado. Dan asked me, he said, hey, we come out, we'll go do this movie. And so I said, okay. So I had my kids with me, and so I drove into Colorado Springs because I was in Wyoming visiting my family. So we're staying at a motel there, and on the weekends we were shooting, and it was good stuff. I mean, I was having a good time. We would go up to the Colorado Springs at the resort up there, and shoot skeet. And there was a guy by the name of Hans. He wanted to go up and go shoot skeet with us. So we took him up there to shoot skeet, and then of course you set on, you have a platform and you're standing and you pull and skeet shoots, flies out and you shoot it.
Right.
And so Hans was with us, and he said, so Hans, this is the way you do it. And you say you pull, aim, and fire. Hans, very good. So Hans, we hit, pull, fire, hit our skeet, step out of the way. Hans gets up and he says, pull, boom, shoots a hole in the tarmac. And I said, no. And Haggerty's looking at me, he says, maybe this was a mistake.
Never give a German rifle.
So I said, okay, let's try it again. So he does it again. Hans, pull, boom. Shoots almost shooting his foot off this time. And I said, listen, Hans, this is how it works. You pull, you shoot in the air, not down there.
Wow.
Should try to hit the thing that flies out, the bird, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, after a few tries, he wasn't very successful. He hence came to be known as Hans Hertreger.
Hertreger.
Hans Hertreger. How are you doing today? Good, boys. But we had a good time with that. It was a fun movie to do. I mean, I had a good time because I got to kick Haggerty's ass in the scene.
Are you one of the Nazis who's trying to impregnate women
I was
to
a
give
cop.
birth to the elves?
I was a detective, Shaver.
Ah, very good. I remember his character name.
Yeah.
Do you remember Deanna Lund on it?
Yeah.
Delightful. But she said, I guess it was non-union, and her and Haggerty were almost kicked out of the guild.
We did. We had to go in. We had to go into the guild. They pulled us in. They said, okay, you're going to apologize in front of the guild. Promise never to work on another non-union movie again.
Right.
Forfeit your wages.
What? They wanted all your money?
Took all the money. So we were basically busted on the thing, And the other guy that was busted at the same time was who's the motorcycle cops? Remember the two motorcycle?
Oh, Eric Estrada? Or
Eric Estrada.
Oh, for doing Dos My Ass.
He was busted too, and he got up. He was doing a movie up there at the same time, and he got nailed for it. We were driving down one time. We were driving down Hollywood Boulevard one time, and he was standing on the corner. I said, "Hey, Eric, man, hey, it's good to see you, bro. Aren't you glad you aren't working on these non-union movies anymore?" And he said, "Who's this? Get him." Get.
Oh, he said that to you. Oh, he's mad.
He was pissed. He didn't even want me to see him stopping him.
Because you were essentially working for free, except for your per diem. They didn't make you give the per diem back, did they?
Well, he couldn't. But the wages they did grab.
Oh, the bastards!
There was a sticker. I never worked on. Well, I did. We did another movie.
Oh no!
Revenge
of the Elves.
No, it was called Blood Games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys knew about that one or not.
Title sounds familiar. Blood Games.
I did a surname. My name was Luke Shea.
You play.
Oh, here he goes. You play Mino Collins.
Yeah.
As Luke
look
Shea.
at all those hot
Shea.
chicks, man.
Yeah, that was a good movie too.
Oh, another Dan Haggerty movie.
Scott Cummings, Laura Albert, Shelley Albert.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh no. Let's see. Was that? Hold on. I went.
Yeah,
to Spirit
Dan's
of the
not
Eagle.
in this.
I went to Spirit of the Eagle accidentally. Hold on. Blood Games. Wow. Look at those women. Laura Albert, Shelley Abbey.
All wearing their Daisy Dukes and their
oh my God! You worked with the great Ross Hagen on that.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he have the greatest voice, like a knife jammed in a toaster?
Oh, it's funny. We had a good time though. He was a good guy.
He was. He passed a couple of years back.
Did he really?
Oh yeah. Ross is gone. I interviewed him on stage.
Hagen,
Tarantino's theater for Boobs and Blood. I interviewed him on stage on the 25th anniversary of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
God, I didn't know that Ross. You know, it really
Ross
surprised
is
I didn't
gone.
know that Ross died.
Yeah, that great voice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we used to spend some. I spent some great time with him and his lady.
Wow. Yeah, he was a great guy. I mean, you look, his stuff was look at these women. Wow. You worked with and George Buck Flower of all the John Carpenter movies.
Buck and I were good buddies. We worked on a number of different projects together.
Did you really?
Yeah, we worked on another one called Tammy and the T-Rex with Denise Richards.
Holy crap! That's the one. That's the one with Paul Walker in one of his first
Paul
movies.
Walker, yeah, exactly.
From Fast and the Furious.
Yep, Paul was in it. He's a good guy.
Where'd you shoot that?
We shot it in when or where?
Where?
We shot that. A lot of it was shot in Thousand Oaks and in Malibu Canyon. That's where the barn was, or where the monster was, and that's kind of the place where I got to grab Denise.
By the way, lucky man. Let the record reflect Ken's eyebrows went up and down.
She's a great gal. She's a great gal.
Wow.
I like her. Yeah, we had a good time.
I was going to do I was up for a henchman in the movie she did. I was going to kill someone really big, but the funding fell out. And then when it regrouped, I think they shut it all in Canada.
Really?
So, yeah. But you were a lucky man. That was before Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Wow. Even before her Bond movie, actually.
Yeah, she didn't. She just coming alive. And I think Denise and Paul both were just, that was kind of a starter. And that was directed by Stuart Raffle.
Oh my God, Stuart Raffle did that?
Yeah.
Stuart Raffle did the entertainingly terrible E.T. ripoff, Mac and Me.
He did that.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh.
He did that, and he did. Stuart did a lot of movies. Has done a lot of movies. I talk to Stewie all the time. We're
Ice
good
Pirates.
friends.
Is Stewie still in LA?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
He lives in TO, and he just wrote a submarine movie, a great movie, and he called me up and asked what I was, because he knew I was working on a project similar to that. And
yeah, because you're also an author. We're going to get into that too, Ken. Don't worry.
So but he's just finished this it's a great submarine movie. It was a story about guys taking over a nuclear submarine, and it's he may be getting it into production by now. I don't know yet, but I worked with Stewie on that one. I worked with Stewie on another one called Lost in Africa. It was some pickup shots, and that was with George Hamilton's son.
Oh, yeah, Ashley Hamilton.
Yeah.
I did his first movie. His first movie was Beethoven's Second. I'm in that as well.
So you played one of those horrible elephant hunters, huh?
I was the elephant hunter in that one.
Wow.
They had me sitting in a Volkswagen, the door open and a shotgun.
Wow.
And this is okay, pull. And I pretend like you're shooting an elephant.
And they cut to a footage of an elephant.
It was fun.
Wow.
I mean, that's the way Stewie's very good. Had all these tarantulas in there, and he had all these black scorpions. I mean, these are mean looking.
Those are the
things.
aggressive ones, huh?
No, they're not poisonous. These are not, but they are aggressive.
They look scary, though.
They look very scary.
Was there an insects coordinator on it?
There was a guy that was hustling the
insect
the
wrangler. Yeah,
insect wrangler.
But it wasn't a beautiful woman.
No, it wasn't Diana Tarrant.
No, because I think, man, these were expensive. If you harmed one or hurt it or something, it cost you a lot of money. So we had shooting of that, and we also shot some scenes with the lion.
Really?
And
was it one of Tippy's lions or from Acton?
Haggerty knew the lion because Dan was up that day. We were shooting with the lion, and I was walking around the lion. Lion was pretty laid back, but big guy, He said, don't move too quickly around him. And I said, don't move at all around him. What are you talking about, man?
The trail of your urine all over the wagon.
This lion,
Right in the face.
So I said, but we were shooting, and it was Tippy. Those were a lot of her animals, and there was a fire when we were shooting that, and they had to get all those animals out of there. Wow. They had to move them.
That's right, because the fire blew right through Shambhala Preserve.
Yeah.
I was doing a set visit on a Sam Raimi Evil Dead movie, and they were shooting in Acton, and it was a period piece, so everyone was riding horses, and the horses were freaking out. Just the Santa Anas kicked in, and the sound carried, and the smell of the horses. The smell of the lions the smell and sound of the lions had reached to the horses. and the horses were bucking the actors.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You know, because
They're
wanted to get the hell out of
smelling
there.
danger,
Yeah.
That's pretty serious stuff. Yeah, Sam Raimi. When you mentioned Sam Raimi, Ed Pressman sent me to Detroit to work on a Sam Raimi movie.
Are you in XYZ Murders?
Yes.
Whoa, that's the one he despises.
Yeah, and so that when we were in Detroit, and Ed had sent me back there, and I think I was also working with the guy that played Bluto. What's it?
Yeah, Paul. Bruce
Paul
Campbell
Smith.
claims
Paul.
you can see him blow a snot bubble of Coke in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You know,
Paul Smith.
Paul Smith and Louise Lasser.
Louise Lasser was there, and there was another actor. I'm trying to think of.
There's a nun who took a vow of silence.
Yeah.
And she's the same chick who starred in Fargo and everything else, and she's married to one of the Coen brothers. Who wrote the script?
I think it was written by Raimi, wasn't it? Or Campbell.
It was written by Raimi, Campbell, and the Coen brothers.
Yeah. So that, but anyway, that we had a problem there because they were one of the actors was giving Louis Lasser a hard time, and I'd gone into that situation. And I said, back off, and the guys it was the '80s husband, and he was a grip, I guess.
Right.
And so he got in my face and he said, "I'm going to kick the hell out of you." And I said, "I don't think so." And so I was in the coffee shack, and he came in the coffee shack. Well, Paul Smith was in there, and he came up on me and he started giving me a hard time. And Paul Smith came up and grabbed him. Wow. And he picked him up and hauled him out and shoved him out the door and says, "Go." And the guy said, "Go." And I said, "You go or I go." And so the guy went. And so anyway, so Ed gave me a call the next day, and he said, "Oh man, we got problems."
So you were released because of that?
I was released.
Wow, and you were only doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I came back to L.A. and I was up at Ed's it was Christmas time. I was up at Ed's helping him light his Christmas tree, and he said, "The problem with you, Carpenter, is you're too loyal."
Wow.
And so you're paid off in loyalty, but this is where you pay off loyalty. That's interesting. He said, "Well, that's Hollywood."
Oh, he said that.
Yeah.
Because to keep the peace in the production, they had to get rid of you rather than wow. Because the first AD has to be happy, or everyone will be miserable.
Oh yeah, exactly. So interesting.
Wow.
So yeah, so now then we come to what else do we have? Oh, Spirit of the Eagle. That was a great one.
Well, yeah, talk about that with Dan Haggerty.
Yeah, that was with Dan Haggerty and Taylor Locker, Bill Smith, William Smith.
William,
the old cowboy western.
Bill's with us. Bill's still with us.
Bill's still here.
Yeah,
but he's
Any which way you can.
he's got problems. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen and talked to.
his wife is amazing. Joanne is terrific.
Yeah, Joanne is incredible.
You know,
So we're friends.
Wow.
So yeah, Billy is. I ran into Billy a couple times. Bill came out to see me in Malibu one time, right after the movie, not long after that, and he was pissed. He said, "I was looking for Haggerty," and he said, "I said what?" And he said, "Haggerty's telling everybody I was dead." He said, "I can't get a job."
To get his work.
I can't get a job.
He was stealing his jobs. Wow, so he came to... Yeah, but Brian James was the one with the snot bubble of cocaine that Bruce Campbell talked about, not Paul Smith.
Brian James is a guy. In fact, Brian and I became really good friends after that.
Really?
Yeah, Brian was living in Malibu. He was one of my sponsors in the AA program.
Wow.
And then, of course,
was he really?
Yeah.
My brother did a movie. My brother Donald did a movie with Brian James, and we went to a party, the after party, and it was all. The director was a model, and so all the women at the party were Revlon models, and all the men except for me and Don were Joel Silver movie bad guys. Brian was there.
Probably Nick Nolte.
But all bad guys from Joel Silver movies.
Yeah.
Nothing but I'm blanking on his name. Sadler.
Yeah.
Sadler was there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just amazing. You know what I mean?
Those guys, in fact, I was surprised what happened to Brian. I really did, because he was a really great actor, was well connected, worked on almost every one of Nick's movies. He was well connected with that.
Were you shocked at him breaking, or were you shocked at him dying?
His overweight, he got really big, and then
he got hit by a car. You know, the car accident.
Yeah, the car accident. Yeah, and then him dying. You know, but had really gotten back into the drug scene.
I drank with he wasn't drinking that night, but I thought he was a really sweet guy, and I noticed a couple of guys in the crew were drinking kind of hard, and I watched Brian James limping because he'd been hit by the car at that point with his cane. I saw him pull them aside and make sure they weren't driving home, and I thought that was really cool of him. You know? Yeah,
no, he was cognizant of what was going on with that, but I guess what happened, I don't know. I presume only what I'd heard that he OD'd.
That was one of the things I heard too. I'm not sure if it was ever proven, but that's what everyone said. You know,
but what a really good guy, a really great
amazingly
actor,
great. The fact that he wanted to make sure some PA wasn't going to drive home drunk, that he took the trouble, really impressed me.
Yeah, no, he was a good guy. He really turned me on to one of my other sponsors in the AA program, who was a guy from one of the Chicago.
Really? Was he an actor? Or?
No, it was one of the. He played the trumpet.
Wow.
Lee Loughnane. Lee's still around. Lee's a great guy.
Yeah, I remember Donald saying that Brian, after being hit by the car, he got addicted to painkillers.
Yeah.
You know, after the car wreck when he went back to heroin. So yeah, I was an overdose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Don Jankowitz, my brother, just chimed in. You know, but I just saw him pull people aside to make sure they weren't driving home effed up or anything, and that goes a long way. It goes towards character, you know? I'm sorry he went back to it.
Yeah, I am too. It's really good. And I'll tell you what, Nick really tailored him along the way. I mean, he gave him all the roles. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, because he was in the first one of the, which was the Nolte.
48 Hours.
48 Hours.
He's Pat Kehoe, named after the first AD in the movie.
Yeah.
Not only that, he's also, Walter Hill, the director, worked with him a few times. Walter Hill made him the one-armed Cajun in one of my favorite movies, this crazy movie called Southern Comfort. You know?
Oh, God, that was a great classic.
Yeah, no, 80s. That was 80s, baby. Yeah, that came out the same year as Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. So it was Cajuns versus National Guard. It's a great movie.
Walter Hill was also the director of Broken Trail.
Yes.
Broken Trail.
Two-parter.
Written by three-parter.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was three-part.
Did McMurtry write that, or
no? That was written by. It was written by.
I'll look it up.
I can't believe it.
No worries. I'll look it up. Walter Hill, man. Broken Trail. There we go. But directed by Walter Hill. Did you work on that?
No, I didn't work on that. But the author, and I became really good friends. The guy I'm talking right now, in fact.
Because you're author to author, you know.
Yeah.
With Duvall and Thomas Hayden Church, the Sandman.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Hang on, I'll have it for you. I'm looking up now. Let's see. Give me the cast. I'm looking for Greta Scacchi. Well. Cast and crew. Okay, the director was, bam, Walter Hill. Oh, okay, we've already covered that. Who's the writer? Writing credits, bam, Alan Geoffrion.
That's right, Alan Geoffrion.
Wow.
Alan Geoffrion we became really good friends. He came to Big Bear.
You've got the greatest voice, by the way. Can I say that?
Thank you.
You've got an amazingly mellow, cool cat voice.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm thinking about
you got to do some narration. Oh yeah, you could do audio
your own
books.
Books.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to audio my own books.
Yeah.
I was asked to do one for my own voice, and I thought, outside of this radio show, who'd want to listen to me for 2 hours? Go on.
So Alan Geoffrion and I are pals, right?
Right.
So Alan comes out. We spend some time. We talk a lot, and we start pitching some projects. He's got some projects he's trying to get going, and I want to help him get it going. He's got one on Belle Starr.
Really?
And it's a great, superb script, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, I've read it. Yep.
Wow.
And so we're trying to get Belle Starr going, and while he's out there, I'm saying, why don't you come and get involved with me? I've just met this guy who runs his U2. He drives his U2s,
right.
U2 spy planes. And so he met Bob Gardner. Bob was in his 80s. So Bob is telling us all about the U2 and spy planes and introduces us to Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, and which is where the home of the U2 is.
Wow.
And so I became good friends with those guys over there. Alan said, you know what, this project is not my cup of tea. I'm going to move on. Go ahead and do your thing. Well, that was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I designed 6 books called Flight of the Angels series. They were all going to go, they dovetail into each other's story. First one was going to be The Winds of Allah, which was a story about a spy plane flying over the Strait of Hormuz, ultimately getting shot down by the Iranians, crashing into Oman. The pilots rescued. Meanwhile, the Iranians are shipping weapons to Hezbollah and Haifa, and so that basically happens over 6 days, where there's a showdown with Iran, and we almost get in a war. Doesn't happen.
Almost a Gary U.S. Powers thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we moved that to volume 2 and 3, which is called The Conquest of the Conquistadors, which is a story about an Iranian scientist, a North Korean scientist,
right,
a Chinese scientist, putting together a nuclear weapon that's shipped to Venezuela. Then from Venezuela, it gets into Mexico. From Mexico, it's working with the cartels to get it into Arizona for a nuclear explosion. Well, that over a period of 2 books, I managed to we circumvent that from happening, pretty much stop it at the border.
Wow.
Move to volume 4, which is called The Wrath of Chang. It's about the South China Sea, and a couple of CIA agents go missing. And there's a character that I favor in this, and it's called Garrity. He's kind of like the James Bond character, that's a young guy, cool guy. But he's a CIA agent. So he goes to the South China Sea and runs into pirates over there, and it's a chase through the South China Sea, running on pirates, eventually getting his agents back. One of them gets killed. And that story basically comes back to, what's really going on with the South China Sea and the Chinese building atolls over there and everything else. There's always political implications in my stories. So that's, it's pretty much right on what's going on right now.
Wow. You have the consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. The next book is called The Return of the Bolshevik, and it's about Putin coming back into power and how he is kind of grabbing all the, exactly what he did, grabbing territory,
In the last 8 years, Putin's gotten very bold, and that scary thing with the flexibility comment,
Yeah, well, his that was not a good thing. That was a bit. He's going to be changing course right now, because I'm telling you, right, he's not going to stand it. Trump won't allow that to happen.
Thank God.
Thank God for Trump.
Well, thank God there's no good the scarier thing than a Russia unfettered.
Yeah, exactly. Russia's not a problem. They're
scary though.
The problem.
I'm half Polish.
Russia
scary.
has an economy the size of Italy.
Wow.
They don't have anything going.
You never got a good refrigerator and appliance made in Russia, have you?
No. You're lucky to get anything aside from, AIDS or something like that out of Russia. So it brings us to this book, which is Flight of the Angel and Revolution of the Patriot.
Hold it up to the camera.
Hold it up to the camera, Chum.
This is...
Plug away. Flight of the Angel.
This is my latest book. This is number 6.
Ken Carpenter.
This is... to be purchased from Amazon or CreateSpace or wherever you can get it. But it's a fantastic book, and basically it's about deep state.
Oh, wow.
It's all about corruption in CIA, JCS,
I like this
Justice
cover.
Department.
Wow.
Brilliant cover design by Night Owl, Vanessa Anderson.
Wow.
Really did a beautiful job with that cover. So, this is fresh off the press. I'm kind of hold off. We're working on a movie deal on this.
Oh, you are? Good
We're
man.
trying to go to franchise with the whole book series. And this would be first out the gate if we can do this.
Wow, congratulations.
We're getting down to the next 6 minutes. We need to talk about
Hellraiser 3. Hell on
Okay.
Earth.
We're big horror fans.
All right,
We love this.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Talk about playing a Cenobite.
How did that come about?
That came about because Lawrence Mortoff, my buddy, called to me and he said, "Hey, you want to play Children of the Corn?" And I said, "2?" And I said, "No." And he said, well, why? And he said, because I'm waiting on a Dan Haggerty movie you're going to do about this thing on the rendezvous. And he says, when's that supposed to happen? I said, anytime. And he said, okay. He says, there's another movie called Hellraiser. You want to do that one? He says, no. I said, no. And he says, come on, man.
He's offering your work. Go for it.
Yeah, and so finally, they did Children of the Corn. I didn't appear in it. And he came up and he says, you want to do Hellraiser? And I said, yeah, I will. So I said, okay, pack your bags. You're going to North Carolina.
Wow.
So I flew out to North Carolina, and we were shooting in Greensboro.
Oh, wow.
And
not far from my folks.
Is it? Beautiful country.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was really nice. I mean, we were shooting in a club out there and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
Makeup, going into makeup on Camerahead was like 3 hours. Coming out was about an hour and a half.
Wow.
It was a pretty sophisticated process. The team was really brilliant.
Did they do a head mold, a full head mold of your?
Yeah, what they did, the way it works is that I had really long hair and I had a Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
And so they kept all of that. And then what they did is they put a skull cap on me and pulled all my hair back up and bunched it in the top and then put a skull cap on me.
Wow.
Then they put the lens on my eye. And then once they did that, then they put the mask over the lens. And it came around my eyes and down around like that. And so that then they just had to work in the makeup around my mouth, around my eyes, and all the rest of it came all the way down into my neck. And it took it was roughly 3 hours because they had like 15, 20 coatings of these different kinds of things that they put on to give it that effect.
And what about the bodysuit?
The bodysuit was a separate, that was a unit that you just, like a dress, you put it on, a jacket.
The first Hellraiser movie shot out of the UK. It was actually shot in North Carolina, as you said. Produced by Harvey Weinstein. Did you meet him?
Yes, I did meet him.
Long pause. Any stories there you want to share?
Let me just say this. Weinstein was well known for his antics, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we did lock horns on some issues on editing. I had to, they confronted me and I confronted them. And
what were they mad about the editing?
They wanted to change some voices, and
not change your voice.
Yeah.
No, you got that distinctive voice.
No,
you
but
can't take.
I think that because Doug Bradley and I had a similar kind of a thing, and Doug had a very distinct voice too.
Oh yeah,
the British voice of his.
Yeah, and so that they didn't want me to compete with him as a voice, so they wanted my character to appear more, like a cameraman would be, a LA cameraman,
sure.
A little, not a rough tumble cowboy kind of guy that I was, So, and they said, we're going to change your voice, some of it, not all of it. And I said, no, you're not. And they said, well, we're going to do it, whether you want to do it or not.
Wow.
And I said, well, you're going to pay me. And they said, we will pay you. And I said, well, you're going to shoot something. We're going to shoot it again first and see if we can make it, if you want me to do it differently, I'll do it differently, and we'll see how it works. So we did. And they ultimately said, well, no, we're going to use our stuff. So I didn't, rather than fight with the Weinsteins, I wasn't going to do that.
No.
But the guy did he was a bully,
Did he take the movie from Anthony? Because he was famous for re-editing movies. If he had a problem with the director, he would just re-edit the movie and let it bomb.
Yeah, that's kind of what they did.
Wow.
I don't think I did not improve it. In fact, when I use my sequences, or if I use any of that footage, I use my voice. Because I didn't use their voice.
Yeah.
So I don't care one way or another.
Oh, yeah.
But we moved on to it, And I've ran into it at various events I've gone, and I've met Doug Bradley and some of the other Cenobites. I'm still friends with a bunch of them.
Did you like Doug?
Yeah, Doug's a great guy.
He's kind of the Freddy Krueger of the series. He's the head Cenobite.
Well, we were in Baltimore one time, and I said to Doug, Peter Atkins, who wrote L3.
Yes.
And he said, you should, I said, what you should do with that is you need to go back to, I'd take it to space if I were you, the next story. It's a great idea. Well, Peter did take it to space, and Peter's idea, the idea, I told Peter about the idea of doing that and take it to the space station, and I said, the only thing I want out is you write my character in there again. Well, he didn't, you know, and so Doug apologized to me. He says, I had nothing to do with it, Ken. You know, I told him, you know, and he did take your idea, and he did it. And I said,
wow.
Oh, well.
Because that was if you saw Hellraiser in space, which I did at the drive-in, the movie was so bad you could see the boom mic in every single shot.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh yeah. And you know it's bad.
Editing problem.
Yeah.
You know it's bad when you can see the boom mic at the drive-in, which is normally very dark, hiding all flaws.
Well, what they should have done with that, and they really should have done what they did with it was the guy that was Anthony Hopkins. In the original, they took all the Hopkins movies back to the original.
We got 1 minute left before it shuts off.
Where the guy was a child, you know, and that's where the box was. They should do that with Hellraiser.
You're right, a reboot.
Yeah.
Now, Plug Ken, where can we follow your book? Where can we follow your acting?
Website, Ken.
Website,
KenCarpenterII.com.
KenCarpenterII.com.
If you go to Flight of the Angels series of books, I'm all over the internet.
Awesome.
Everywhere.
We want to thank you guys for coming in, man.
BrewCon, November the 17th up in Fresno.
BrewCon?
Ken's going to be up there signing BrewCon. It's a event up there, signing event. He's going to be up there November 17th. Steve Joyner knows all about it.
All right.
Yeah, Pat and Jeff, thank you very much for having me.
Ken, your pleasure
welcome,
was
man.
ours. Ken and Mike Copley, you guys are great. Steve Joyner, thanks for introducing us to these wild cats.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Richard Karn, for coming in at the top of the hour. Whatever you do to live, drive, and survive, have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Wow, Ken, thank you so much. Kill the
pleasure.
feed. Kill the feed.
All right.
Wow, Ken, thank you so much. You know, come here, you get a hug.
Hey, brother.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Richard Karn, listen a lot.
We also have.